Did I get another wait? Okay. I'm like, hold, go, stop, go. Stop, wait, hold. Setting up remote video podcasts. I'm just going to say that with friends like these, I need to go back to Ohio. So, somebody get a stick. Oh, yeah, the stick. I want sticks. We never. Sticks. I'm going for that stick. So, sorry, Craig. So the topic for this presentation is setting up remote video podcasts. It is being produced and hosted by Craig DeLuz, who is the president and CEO of 2A News Corporation and the owner of Uncommon Sense Media. He is the former director of legislative and public affairs for the Firearms Policy Coalition. You guys know it as FPC, and is currently the co-host of The Rundown. So Craig has also previously served as the Director of Communications for Florida Carry and is the host of The Gunshine State for Florida Carry. That's where I first heard of him, was The Gunshine State. So once you hear of him and then you start to follow him, you're going to find out he's pretty amazing. So hand, please, for Craig DeLuz.
Thank you, Amanda. So really what I want to talk about, first of all, in general, I want to talk about video. Video podcasting or live video podcasting is one of the things that I want to make sure to talk about. Is it possible to get the slide up? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk video. A lot of people don't really know or think about whether or not they should be video. Some of you here actually are doing video, but are you maximizing what you could be using video for or how you can be using it? Some of you are just doing audio podcasts and you're wondering, should I be doing video and what kind of video should I be doing? Some of you are just doing blogs, or you're writers, all right, or you're spokespeople in the industry. So what I want to talk about is why you should consider doing video, and I want to talk. Then we'll get into a little bit of what type of video you should consider doing, and then how you go about doing it. Can we go to the next slide real quick? All right, so first of all, who am I, right? What is my background in this area? And I have about 25 years, over 25 years, almost 30 years now experience in public relations, PR, crisis media management, in particular focusing in the political arena. Next slide, please. So now a lot of you know me when I first started out doing this stuff in the gun rights community. It was with the California Association of Federal Firearms Licensees. And I was the chief spokesman for that organization, which would eventually then become the Firearms Policy Coalition. FPC started off as a project of CalFFL. Eventually I would become a lobbyist, a full-time lobbyist for gun rights in California. You can imagine that I have seen all sorts of wackiness, craziness, and crazy legislative proposals in California because, well, if you've seen it in your state, if it exists or it's been proposed in your state, trust me, it was introduced in California first. I also host Morning Coffee with Craig. That's a program that we do with the Firearms Policy Coalition where we talk about gun rights and gun rights stuff. Right now, it's 2 days a week, but it runs 2 days a week, and that's through their YouTube channel. And I also host a program called The Rundown, 2A News and Conservative Views, and I do that with Mike Piwowarski of Arms Room Radio. That's a live video podcast from Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Mike would say 5 is the only time that matters because Eastern, but Mike ain't here, so too bad. Can we go to the next one? So I do most of the work that I do in terms of media and crisis management. So what I do is I do what's called digital communications. I take individuals and organizations, mostly political, who want to have an online presence or expand their online presence, and we help them to do that. We do everything from building and managing websites. We do social media management. We do video production, as well as video podcast, as well as live feed production. Some of my clients include, believe it or not, California Black Media, which basically provides content and media to about 35 African-American newspapers throughout the state of California. The Sacramento Observer, which is the oldest African-American newspaper west of the Mississippi. And yes, I do have a tendency to get some conservative and pro-gun stuff on their publications. But I also work with the California Republican Assembly. I am the Director of Communications. I host a program for them called CRA TV. This was an organization that was, I'll just say, it was near its deathbed when I started working with them 2 years ago. Now they are the largest and the fastest growing conservative grassroots organization in the state of California. And believe it or not, yes, there are conservatives in California. We'll go to the next one. All right, so let's talk about the why. Why is video important? Anybody have any ideas? Yes, sir. Oh, video is king. Touches all the senses. People are more likely to watch a video than read something, yes. Oh, God, these guys are reading my presentation. I better do my presentation before they steal all my good stuff. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so first of all, it's important to understand that people who study how people consume content believe that it is important to do video. According to Demand Metric, in partnership with Vidyard, 83% of those surveyed respondents said that video is increasing in importance. In other words, those who are in the industry of communicating to you, reaching out to you, trying to get your eyeballs, those folks are saying that it is vitally important that you do video. Next slide, please. Weisel's research reveals that video is much more desirable than text-based articles, 15%, infographics, 4%, presentations, 4%, ebooks, manuals, 3% of learning information. In other words, that's what everyone else is consuming, right? And that just goes to show how much more important it is that we are doing video. People are more likely to click on video and pay attention to video or use it as an entry into other content. Next slide, please. The key with video, and this is the reason why Netflix, is that video can be engaging, right? Our brains are wired to engage in storytelling, right? People not only like to tell a story, they also like to hear a story, right? And what's great with video is it gives you the ability to tell that story in a way that is much more engaging. Once again, I think because once again it goes back to all of the senses that you are tying into when you are telling that story. The ability not just to use words, but to use pictures, to use sound, to use music in the background. Things that are going to then attract and engage people. Next slide, please. Emotional. When you are telling that story, once again, because you are hitting those senses, it increases the likelihood through imagery, through background music, through the words, the intonation of what you are saying, of what is being said, it increases the likelihood that you are going to be able to reach and touch people emotionally. And let's just be real. Politics, and a lot of what we're doing is we're trying to influence policy in the realm of the Second Amendment. Politics, political decisions are emotional decisions. We back them up with logic, but ultimately it's an emotional decision. Next slide, please. Educational. Our brains are wired to process visual information, right? And believe it or not, reading text is not considered visual information. So to see stuff, to render stuff, your mind is more likely to store that information in your long-term memory if you are able to not just hear it, but as well as you're able to see it. Next slide. Empathetic. If you've ever tried to guess how someone is feeling, and I use text messages as the best example of this. Have you ever had someone put an emotion or get mad at you over something that you said over text because they just took it a completely different way? That's the challenge that the written word has. It is the ability to make sure that you properly convey an emotion or a feeling in written form. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's a lot easier to do when you're doing it via video. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you've decided, okay, I need to be doing video. I know I was thinking about it. I don't know if I should, but you've decided I'm going to do video. What sort of video products should I be doing? Next slide, please. All right, there are various different types of videos, right? What you see over here is these are the lists of the types of videos that marketers, people who are looking to spend money advertising and promoting, those are the ones from top to bottom that they are most interested in putting money in, because those are the ones that, guess what, that people watch, right? There's demonstration videos, explainer videos are very, very big, product videos. And for those of you, when you talk about product, you're talking about product promotion, which is, by the way, different than a demonstration video, right? You're actually talking about promoting a product. By the way, all of you out there have a product. You are your product. Your blog is your product. Your video series is your product. Your books are your product. You as a face of the 2A community in mainstream media or in the media period is a product. Live video and live video feeds, which we'll talk about a little bit later. How-to and educational videos, very, very big. I will tell you, I initially learned how to take apart and put back together every single one of my firearms by watching YouTube videos. And that's not the only thing. How many of you have used a YouTube video to learn how to do something? So then you've got vlogs, you've got webinars, once again, and training videos. Let's go to the next slide, please. There we go. So these are the main ones in the area where we're dealing. So all of us are 2A, we are 2A media in one way or another. The types of videos that you need to consider doing. Number one, news and commentary. Second Amendment issues largely are not covered by the mainstream media. When they are completely wrong. Well, almost always wrong. Usually what we get when we're looking at, in particular, news we're looking at news that's done by the non-2A community, what you'll see is anti-gun, 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 pro-gun, anti-gun, anti-gun, anti-gun. And that's how that usually goes. So there are people in the 2A community, but oh, by the way, there are also people who actually work in mainstream media who are looking for resources of accurate information regarding to 2A stuff, right? Now, that's done in two different ways. You can either do talking heads, and a lot of us do that. The rundown is an example of talking heads. It's me and Mike just talking about the news of the day. Same thing with the Polite Society podcast or the Bullet. You're talking about the issue and news of the day. There's also audience engagement, live feeds. Live feeds are vitally important because it makes people feel like they are there. Even if they are not there, it makes them feel like they are there, right? It gives them an opportunity to experience the event, or whatever's going on, whatever you're talking about in particular, through your eyes. There's also Q&A. This is a great way to do, for example, a webinar, right? So in other words, what you do is whether it's through your social media or through your email or through your e-newsletters, you're getting questions from people, and then you bring forth an expert that can then answer those questions, right? Provide information to your audience. And here's the thing. Right now, engagement is the number one thing. That's what people are looking for. All of the algorithms, whether it's Google, whether it's Facebook, whatever it is, what they are looking for, the number one thing they are looking for that push your content to the front of the line is engagement, right? And then once again, what was the first thing that we said about video? It increases engagement. All right, and then finally, promotions, teasers, highlights, or video ads. Now, I bring that up because there are a lot of people here who have, who do, for example, a podcast. And one of the ways in which you can promote that podcast is by pulling out snippets throwing some graphics, some visuals, creating a 30 to 60-second video that you can then share on TikTok, that you can then share on Instagram Reels, that you can then push out there to promote your content, right? That's a big way in which Joe Rogan built his following was from those. Most people right now are not going to YouTube to watch all of Joe Rogan. They see a snippet of it of the program with Mark Zuckerberg. They see the snippet of Elon Musk smoking a joint on Joe Rogan's show. They see that, and people then go to that, right? So you can use video as a way in which to promote, once again, whatever your product is, whether it is the written word through blogs, whether it is an audio podcast, or even pulling significant snippets out of your video podcast. You can do that and reformat it and repurpose it as a promotional tool. So not only are you providing entertainment to folks when they're watching it on Reels or they're watching it on Instagram, but you're also providing a link back to your content, because if they like what they see, they're going to want more. Next slide, please. All right. So how do I get started, right? Now I've decided, I have an idea of what I might want to do. What are the things that I need to consider when starting to produce video? Next slide, please. All right, the first thing is just do it. Just do it. Make the decision, make the commitment, and start taking the actions to actually make it happen. Because here's the reality. In particular, in this room, you already have most of the stuff you need in order to start making it happen. All right? Content, passion for your message, technology, and willingness to learn. Can we go to the next slide, please? So when I started doing Morning Coffee with Craig, I was getting a couple of dozen people who were watching it at a time, right? And we did it with nothing more than an iPhone on a tripod. Eventually, we started doing more. We added the 1080 camera, and then graduated to the 4K camera. We added a professional background and all of that. We added actual, microphones, high quality microphones and all that. But what we did was we started with what we had. And right now you have, and do me a favor, hold up. If you have a cell phone, hold it up. If you have a smartphone. If you have a dumb phone, don't hold it up. But you have literally a production studio in your hand, right? You have everything you need in order to get started. And in many cases, the cameras on these are better than a lot of the cameras you're going to go out there and buy. And chances are you already know how to use this camera. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so how do I get started? First of all, content. You are issue experts. If you spend any time dealing with people, even in the political realm, who deal with firearms policy, you know that most of them do not know what you know. They do not have access to the information or to the people that you have access to, right? And that gets on to our second one. You know the people and the organizations. You know the folks at FASTER, right? You know the folks at the Second Amendment Foundation, at the Firearms Policy Coalition, at Florida Carry, at the various different groups. You know the people, you know the organizations. So even if you don't know the issue well, you know the people who do. So you already have access to the content. Passion. Now I'm just going to say this. I shouldn't have to talk to you about passion because you are here on a Friday, right? You are here sitting in a room listening to me, which means you already have the passion. And if you don't have that fire yet, well, then your wood is wet, and if I were you, I'd go enjoy the day. Just saying. Go to the next slide. Technology. All right, these are things that you want to consider, right? The first is camera. What sort of camera you are going to use. Now, many people have a temptation when you watch a lot of the online shows right now, people are using the video camera or the camera from their computer, right? More than a few problems with that. First of all, most of them today are still only 720, which means that you're not getting a very high quality picture. And even if they're not 1020, even if they're not 720, the quality of the image that you're getting, because of the angles are all bad, so you're trying to move your computer so it doesn't block the, so that you're trying to move the computer so that you're getting a right angle so it doesn't look like the camera is looking up at you. A lot of people also will use webcams. And the challenge oftentimes with external webcams is you don't have the ability to do things like deal with white balance. You oftentimes don't have the ability to deal with changing colors, or to open the iris so that you can deal with lighting, right? Now, there's a hack around that. The hack is this. So how many of you are familiar with OBS? It's Open Broadcasting System. It's a free software that you can download, and it's largely used for webcasting or for broadcasting, right? But there's a function in OBS that's called virtual camera. And what it does is it allows you, whatever you have coming in, it allows you to broadcast that to another live stream. You can broadcast it to Zoom. You can broadcast it to Google Meets. It basically comes up as another camera on your computer. Now, the good thing about it is that in OBS, you can do things like zoom in and zoom out. You can adjust your white balance. There's a number of different functions that you can do in order to improve the image of that webcam. So that's a little bit of a hack. It's a pain in the rear to do, but once again, it's a hack around. It's a hack around that. What I tend to do is I use a professional level 4K cameras that allow me to, once again, adjust for white balance. They allow me to adjust for lighting. So I oftentimes I don't need to have a full lighting kit when I'm doing a live broadcast. But those can be a little pricey, and it's probably not the best place to start. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I use Zoom for all of my video interviews. Mm-hmm. And what I think I know is that it doesn't matter how fancy of a camera I have on there, because Zoom is going to dumb it down to where Zoom's going to take it. And so are these awesome things that you're telling me about OBS and 4K cameras and all that stuff, is that something I can use with Zoom, or should I ditch Zoom and use something else?
I'll put it to you this way. You want to have a decent, how do I put this? There's a saying, garbage in, garbage out. If the quality of your image going into Zoom, even though it's being compressed, if the quality of that image going in is not good, so for example, the quality of the image the image that you get on Zoom has nothing to do with your white balance, right? Whether or not you look too red or you look too pale. It has nothing to do with the lighting that is in the room, right? Maybe it's too dark, or whether or not it's too light, right? It doesn't necessarily impact that. So you want to use OBS in order to address that, or a better camera. And once again, the camera, usually if you're using a camera in particular for live feeds, if you're feeding it into a live feed service, then you're going to need to use a video adapter. A video capture, that's something that allow you to then push the video from the camera into the computer and then out.
So you want the best image to start with.
Yes.
And then Zoom's going to do what it's going to do.
Right.
But at the highest level possible.
And when eventually you want to get to a point where you're using something other than Zoom.
Yeah.
Because Zoom is not really necessarily made for broadcast quality imagery.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Lighting. Lighting is vitally important. You want to make sure that you are well lit from the front. You also want to make sure that you are lit from the back, right? You want to make sure that you have appropriate amount of lighting. You don't want to sit in front of a window with the sun behind you, right? You want to make sure that the lighting is at your front. You want to try and make sure that it's spread out enough to where you don't have a bunch of shadows. If you're doing green screen, let me tell you, lighting is everything. I've done plenty of green screen that was really, really bad because my lighting was really, really bad. Sound and audio. Let me tell you something. If I can tell you, if anything needs to be quality, if I had a choice between the audio being good and the video being good, audio should be better. Invest in your audio first. please, 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 because when something sounds bad, and I know because I put out a lot of stuff that sounds bad, people more recognize that. They more comment on that than they do when something doesn't look right. So make sure you invest in good audio. And by the way, good audio is cheaper than good video. Just saying. Editing and production software and hardware. Let me tell you something. There are a lot of options now for streaming, for doing live feeds. But the great thing about them now is many of them you can actually also just record. So you can actually use it to do production ahead of time. So rather than recording it on a camcorder and then going and cutting in and adding in lower thirds and all of that stuff, you can do everything in pre-production so that when you go to produce it, when you go to do the show, boom, it's done. It's in the can and it's ready to run. You can also, once you get used to doing that, you can also then run it or do it as a live feed. But consider investing. Once again, start small. And I'll tell you, with any of this stuff, start small and then start to learn what you're doing at that level and then invest a little bit more into the next level. And that's where I also get into the broadcast, a little bit into the broadcast platform. We'll go to the next slide. All right, this is our closing point. So these are some basic keys to remember. Number one, don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good. There are some shows, some content that I watch out there that is just, I'm not going to lie, the production quality is horrible. But they have all of these followers, all these subscribers, all of these views because people enjoy their content. And that gets to the next thing. Consistency is king, right? Do what you do and do it as often as you do it. All right? What that means is if you decide I'm going to do a weekly show, then do a weekly show. If it's going to be available on Friday at 2 p.m., it needs to be available on Friday at 2 p.m. because especially now that people have the ability to tune in on their TV, people's watching habits are the same. They're going to tune in at the same time. And if it's not consistently available for them, then you won't become a consistent part of their life or what it is that they're doing. Always be learning and improving. You will make a lot of mistakes. I don't care how prepared you think you are when you start, you are going to make mistakes. I know because I have a lot of bad video content out there. But that bad video content helped me to eventually do better video content. And finally, and that's why I like the session that was before this, promote, 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 promote. If you do not toot your own horn about your product, right, and about what your product is promoting, no one else will. And that's kind of it for my presentation. I know I didn't get much into doing the setup for the live video remote podcast. Did you want me to answer any questions or anything on that, or didn't we have any?
If you don't mind, we do have a few questions coming in from online. All right, we've got Gun Websites over on the YouTube side wanted to comment, said some negatives for video exist too. Lack of production value can get a subject dismissed, ignored if you place it next to the wrong alternative. Time invested in message, etc. You want to comment on that?
I'm not understanding the question.
Some negatives for video exist too. Lack of production value can get a subject dismissed or ignored if you place it next to the wrong alternative.
What I found is that people are forgiving as long as you're getting better. If you keep making the same mistake, then yeah, eventually you're going to lose audience share. The better your quality of your stuff, the more likely people are going to consistently tune in. But you constantly have to be listening. Let me tell you, especially on video, people will comment. They will tell you what the problems are. Read your comments for that, in particular, to find out what stuff you need to improve.
Next question was, what is the next step from Zoom?
So that's where you start getting in. You start looking at there are services that are available. There's that are available via online. So there's Restream. There's what you use Vimix, right?
vMix, yeah.
vMix. There's StreamYard. There are different ones that are available that have a lot of the post-production stuff for you to be able to use. To basically, you just hook up all of your computer stuff and it goes straight up into the internet, into the cloud, and you do all of the production stuff there on the website. Now, then you get beyond that, and there are programs that are like OBS, only they are more professional and provide you a lot more resources. I use a program called Wirecast. It's relatively expensive, but it's high quality and allows you to produce a high quality production.
We're going to take one more question.
Thank you. Not so much a question, but just a couple of quick points. Watch your video before you post it if you're not being live. And please, please, please turn the music down. It should never be louder than your voice.
Good pointers.
Two very good pointers that I had to learn the hard way, just so you know.
Not that she was talking about you, but...
Oh, no. I'm just saying, but I just say that to say you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. Because a mistake that you learn from is a good thing. A mistake that you repeat it often, you keep repeating and don't learn from, that's not such a good thing.
And those who don't make mistakes don't take any risks, don't take any challenges, don't get off the sofa and don't do anything. So we want mistake makers who are mistake learners. Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Okay, so our next speaker is Rebecca Schmoy, and she is speaking on hitting your target audience. So she is a true grassroots gun rights advocate on so many levels. She is a spokesmom for 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, and she is the Kansas State Director of the DC Project, which if you don't know the DC Project, it rocks. She's also running for elected office in the Kansas State House, the State House of Representatives, and she believes that together individual liberty and personal responsibility build the foundation of our inherent rights. Imagine that as an elected official, right? And she also says when coupled with education, those beliefs will do more for safety and freedom than any legislation our elected representatives can offer. So join me in welcoming Rebecca Schmoy.
All adjusted here. I have notes so that I stay on track because otherwise we're going to be squirrel hunting. All right. It is great to see all of you guys. It is great to see all of you guys here today. I appreciate everybody that's tuning in from, across the nation, across the world as well. The opportunity that we've been given should be applauded. The fact that we can come together as Second Amendment media and learn from one another, that doesn't happen in other areas. Running for office, I have learned that there are people who will reach out and help you learn the ropes, and then there are people who don't want you to learn the ropes because they think that it is infringing on their audience, on their ability to speak from their platform. The fact that we can all come together and do this is phenomenal, and I applaud everyone for that. All right, we are talking today about hitting your target audience. Everybody in here has an audience. Everybody at home has an audience. The thing is that we need to put some thought into who our audience is and what it is that they're expecting from us. Now, I promise you we did not call each other ahead of time, but several of my points will be reflected from what we've already heard today. It really is that important. First of all, we will have a little bit of audience participation. How many of you guys notice memes on social media? Yeah, it's a quick, easy to share, easy to consume form of media. We kind of think of it as kind of a byproduct or something. I'm going to date myself here. In the 80s, with the jean jacket and the buttons. You guys remember all the buttons with the quick little sayings? That's what a meme is. It is designed specifically to catch your attention and is supposed to be shared so that it almost feels like you are the one that created the content. If you are a meme creator, you have two options. You can put your brand on the meme itself and have that shared, and then that is advertising for your brand, or you can leave your branding off of it and just rely on the message to get out, because sometimes, quite frankly, people won't share information if it has someone else's name or brand attached to it. So if the message is strong enough and you don't mind not having your brand on it, just put the words out so we can get the message out. I know that is counterintuitive to all of the branding discussions, but it's the reality of it. There are some people who will not share that information simply because it's got somebody else's name on it. We are working on that in the 2A community. That's why we all come to things like this. That way we can network and we can get better at sharing one another's content. When you think of Reels, the short snippet videos on social media, the audience that you are reaching with those is the same audience that we would reach with commercials. When you are sharing something like a reel, you have a limited amount of time to disseminate some really important information, whether that information is something that you feel strongly about, or whether that information is, hey, check out my page. It is a short amount of time, like a commercial, and we all understand how important commercials are. As we were growing up, what was the happiest place on earth? Disney, of course. What Craig used just a few minutes ago, just do it. Who's that? It's Nike. Who here knows the ultimate driving machine? BMW. You're in good hands. What's in your wallet? Snap, crackle, and pop. Nothing runs like a... We all understand how important that short branding type commercial is. We all have grown up and lived our entire lives understanding that it doesn't take very long for an idea or a slogan to stick. So we can use that while we're going for a targeted audience. We need to make sure that we are having clear, concise message. In Reels, it is the 3-15-3 rule. So for 3 seconds at the very beginning, you've got a hook, because we all know, anybody who's on social media, if you are scrolling, you've got about 3 seconds that you are seeing this video play in front of you, and that's when you determine whether or not you're going to finish watching that video. 15 seconds is your actual content, what it is that you are trying to share with the audience, whether it is something that is serious, whether it is something that is humorous. You've got 15 seconds of quality content, and then the last 3 seconds is your call to action. And a lot of people miss the call to action. The call to action can be something as click like, follow my page at, contact your legislature, comment below, share with friends. All of those things are the call to action. Without that, we are not engaging the audience. We are actually giving the audience something to do, something to participate in. When we talk about articles and blogs, we have to understand that we're talking about things like newspaper articles, magazine articles, things that people will sit and read. And I know that it seems like people don't do that anymore. I can promise you, in my house, people still sit and read articles. And they will sit and read articles out loud to the other people in the room if it's a good enough article. That is where we take the meme, the quick shareable advertisement, and then the reel, the commercial, and we are able to unpack the idea that we have shared previously. So when you create a meme or share a meme, and then you create a reel and share that, then you can also direct your audience to the article that you wrote so that you can give them all the information. Who here remembers the structure of an essay from school? Yeah? Yes. So you tell them, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. So really all the article is doing is taking that meme content or the reel that you have shared as your commercial, and you've already told them what you're going to tell them. So now the article is telling them. Then we move to the video part where we can use the meme into the reel, into the article, and then use the article as part of the video. So just like Dan was talking about earlier, we can just simply read the article or find someone else who will read the article. And then we can discuss the article. And then we can bring the audience in at that point. And now it's interactive. Now you are discussing your ideas and your goals, and you are sharing that experience with your audience. The thing that you have to be careful of when you're writing an article, like Craig was talking about earlier, it's easy to misinterpret. You have to make sure that the author's voice triggers the reader's perception. So if you are someone who is known as being serious and logical and fact-based, you want to make sure that when you are writing out your article or your script for your video, that you adhere to that. You have set that expectation for your audience. That's what they expect from you. That doesn't mean that you can't be funny. In fact, if your expectation that you have set is that you are humorous and you are witty, then you want to stick with that, but you also have the ability in video to be serious. So when you're writing, you have to adhere to what the audience, or else they might misconstrue your emotion. If I could read my handwriting here. When you've trained your audience on what to expect from you, they look forward to the conversation. It's just like making friends. So if you have trained your audience that this is what I'm about, this is what you can expect from me, and then they tune in and you are completely off your normal banter, then they're going to wonder what's wrong. They're going to think that there's a problem. You have now separated yourself from your audience. And the entire point is to make sure that your audience comes along with you. You want to make sure when you're writing or when you're creating content that your audience knows that you are the creator of the content. You want them to expect you to act a certain way and to deliver lines a certain way that they can recognize you without having to track down the who wrote it. You want your audience to read or hear something and say, oh, I know who said that. When you are developing the creator-audience relationship, you want them to continue to want to seek out your content. It is imperative. Our entire industry is based on the fact that they will continue to seek out your voice. So you want to make sure that you are projecting yourself in such a way that you are being open and that you are being engaging and that you are making exciting for those in the audience to participate with you. Give your audience the benefit of the doubt on the intelligence scale. You do not have to dumb down your content. Trust that your audience, for one, is smart. They are intelligent. They are seeking out your opinion. Therefore, obviously, I mean, come on, guys, obviously, they are smart enough to be seeking out your opinion. So treat them with respect. There is nothing worse than reading an article by someone who you have had a conversation with or someone who you have seen in conversation with others where they come across as intelligent and an expert on a topic, and then they write an article or they give a speech and it's like they're talking to a third grader. That is condescending to your audience. Just steer away from that. There are times and places where you want to use 3-word directives. That is not all the time in every place. We have to, as media entirety, not just Second Amendment, we have to start respecting our audience. All right, so with video and vlogs and podcasts, solo podcasts and radio, what we're doing is basically the same thing as when we write an article to share. Only we're writing it for the consumers that like audiobooks. When you take into consideration who your audience is and that you start thinking about what their daily life looks like and how they consume your media, you have to start to understand that we've got a very limited amount of time before we lose their attention. Even great content can be lost because it stretches on too long. All of us grew up with sitcoms. Every one of us grew up in the world of you've got the intro, and then you've got the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the conclusion, all within 30 minutes. It was all wrapped up within 30 minutes. Most of our attention spans have only decreased since then. We need to make sure that when we are creating content, if it is something that is going to take longer than about 30 to 45 minutes, which is usually the commuter's drive, the media consumer who listens to a podcast on their daily commute, you've got about 30 to 45 minutes of time. If you are 2/3 of the way through that and they get out to go into work, the chances of them listening to the last part of that are pretty slim. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of us put our how to find me. So you've got to start thinking about, first of all, when you introduce yourself in your podcast, make sure that you are introducing where they can find you for more information at the beginning. And then try to keep it to that commute time so that you're not losing them. If it's something that's going to take a long time to unpack, if it is a topic that's going to take longer than you expect, break it up into like a mini series. Just make sure that you leave them with a cliffhanger, something that they want more information. So design your speech, design whatever it is that you're doing to leave them wanting more, so that when they do get out and they pause that and they go to work and they come back out on lunch, they want to finish. They want to know what's next. That is so important and is often missed because, generally speaking, we do a show and then we cut it off and then we do a different show and then we cut that off and then we do a different show. If you have something that is important enough to unpack in several shows, just make sure that your audience wants to come back. You have to know your audience. A lot of us got into this and we just jumped in and we started doing this and we didn't give any thought to who our audience is. We need to make sure that you are taking time to think about who your potential audience is, who you want your audience to be, and you have to understand that when you are doing something like a podcast or when you are doing something this interactive with the audience, all you're doing is hosting a party. You are the host of the party. You have your old friends, the audience. You bring on a guest, and that's the new friend that you're introducing to the group. You tell the group why that friend is somebody that they want to know, and then you step back and you make sure that, one, you show them in a good light, but two, get your audience involved in asking questions of your guest. Whether you pre-record and send out something ahead of time saying what questions you have for this amazing person that I'm going to have on the show, or you have the interactive. It is imperative to have your audience participating because that makes them feel like they're part of the show. Everybody likes to be part of the show. We all have our favorite methods of communication. If you want a very targeted audience, use one or two, use the meme, use an article. If you want to broaden your audience, incorporate all the different forms of media because you can use one to promote another, and we have talked about that several times today. It's imperative that we reach beyond our echo chamber. We need to make sure that we are inviting audiences that we traditionally wouldn't think would tune in. We need to make sure that we are reaching out past ourselves. I mean, we're a great audience, but we need to get other people involved because when we get those who are outside the community involved, they start being the community. They are then able to talk to the other people in their sphere of influence. I don't know about you guys, but in school, we would do lectures, It's not as much fun as having a conversation. Whenever possible, have a conversation with your audience. If it's just you and your audience, include your audience. If it's you and a guest in your audience, include your audience. When you are writing an article, give your audience something to do, an actionable item. Include them in the journey. You guys are a great audience. Our friends following along at home are a great audience. Network together. While I'm running for legislature in my state, I sent out a call to action. I sent out a request to other people that I know in the Second Amendment community. And I said, listen, guys, I need endorsements. I need something to share with my constituents that I actually have been in the fight for a decade. And our community, the Second Amendment community, stepped up, and they were amazing. I have so many videos and articles and so many things that people from our community were able to put together on my behalf. If we can do that for each other, just for me, for little old me running for House District 59 in Kansas, we can do that for each other in whatever it is that our media covers. We need to start sharing one another's content. We need to start having one another on. We need to make sure that we are incorporating our audiences, because our audiences overlap. And in some places, you are reaching entirely new people. Just make sure that whatever it is that you are doing in Second Amendment media, you are engaging your audience so that they want to become one of us. They understand that they also have a voice. The more the merrier. Thank you, Amanda.
I've learned everything that I know about keeping time from Julianne, right? And you just slowly creep up and get their attention. So at this point, we're going to release everybody to go to lunch. And back here at 1 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock, I'm going to hand over the golden microphone to Ms. Cheryl Todd, and she will take over the afternoon portion of the program. So far, I want to thank everybody for being here, being engaged, being awake, and participating. It's been amazing. So 1 o'clock, back here.
And for everybody that is catching us live, I want to say that we're going to go ahead and we're going to close down the broadcasts again, with the exception of OpsLens. We're going to let OpsLens stay live. But for Facebook and YouTube, we're going to go ahead and close you down. We'll be back at 1 o'clock. We've got an award to give out, and we're going to continue presentations. We wrap up everything at 5 p.m. So come back and join us at 1 p.m. Central Time. Thanks, everybody.